Hey guys, this is Trunks, and I am showing off my dual sector gear echo1 GAT. And this isn't a tutorial because there's plenty of tutorials on how to do a dual sector gear in guns already, but this is just demonstrating, what I did to mine to get it to work. And right now I'm at Techstar Airsoft in the video, and that's Mike there. He's the manager of Techstar Airsoft Field in Houston, Texas, right in the West Oaks Mall on Highway 6. Really cool field. They hold a monthly tournament, and their first month was in November. And my team, Nice Guys Airsoft, we actually won that tournament. And we only had 3 players, and we won that tournament. And there's like 2 other Speed QB teams on there, just 2 other random teams too. But yeah, it was an awesome tournament, and if you guys are in Texas, in Houston, Texas, feel free to drop by there to play some Speedsoft. And so yeah, this is the GAT. I added a stock to it, and these are the parts that I just got. This is the tapper plate. This is a version 2 tapper plate that I need to modify to make lower the nozzle so it matches the proprietary nozzle on the GAT. I also got a spring guide with a ball bearing spring guide, I guess, and a M170 spring. Inside, originally I have a M160 spring, and that gives me 34.2 rounds per second, and it gives me an FPS of, I think it was like 260, maybe 280. That's kind of low, so hopefully with the M170 spring I get a higher FPS. I also ordered 6 mid-cap mags, and because of the high cap mag for the GAT, they don't feed too well with a DSG build, because the sector gear just moves that tapper plate way too fast, and it just doesn't allow, a steady stream of BBs to come out. I usually skip every 2 shots, which is really annoying. So, but with the mid-cap mags, everything runs perfectly. And the echo1 actually has 100 round mid-cap mags, and they're only $14. And I was actually really hard set on getting the ARP9, but I found out that the mid-cap mags only hold 60 rounds, and they're $22, and that's just ridiculous. $22 for a 60 round mid-cap. So I think I'm just gonna stick with the this GAT here. Alright, so I'm taking apart the GAT, inspecting everything, and kind of showing off the upper and how light it is. And the first step you should do, or you have to do, is take off the barrel. And once that's off, you can take out the gearbox. I just noticed here that the hop-up rubber was shifted to the left a little bit, and that's not good. So, okay. So you gotta pop out the pins and pop out the pins the right way, and then you gotta set the gun on full auto to take out the gearbox. Showing off the lower with the custom stippling that I did. Taking off the MOSFET. Looking at the trigger play, and then I noticed for some reason when I got this GAT, actually my friend Adam who had it, the selector switch like broke immediately when he used it, and I saw that happen to 2 other GATs, and I think it's a reoccurring thing with all the GATs. I guess the trigger connection snaps off or something like that, or a part of the gearbox snaps off and allows the trigger to like get stuck in the upward position, and it's really annoying. And so I did some modifications to keep that down. And taking off the motor. it helps you use the right size Phillips screws. And this Phillip head is actually too small, so I switched to my Leatherman here. Loosen it just enough. So right now I'm using a T10 star bit or screwdriver, T10 screwdriver, hex or safety screw, I don't know what they call it, but yeah, I got this one for, I think actually I use it for my Leatherman, but it works for the echo1 GAT. And I'm going to show you why it's important to have the right kind of spring guide. Alright, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to take out this gearbox without everything exploding, and just finessing it open and letting the spring pop out the back works. Some people put a screwdriver in the back to hold the spring down. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but you know, whatever works. And showing the spring guide here, how it's bent because it's not the right one that goes in the gun. And checking out the piston, you can see where all the teeth I ground off and where I messed up originally installing the stupid piston. Here's the M160 spring. It's too weak apparently. And checking out all the gears and making sure none of the teeth are messed up. And everything looks good. Tapper plate is torn apart, of course, because that's the stock and original tapper plate, and it got shredded. Not because of the DSG, it's just because of user error when I installed it the first time. And I have a new tapper plate that you can tell it's a little higher because the cylinder is actually lower in the echo1 GAT. Okay, so right here I think I am re-shimming everything. Yeah. So making sure all the shims are perfect and get good play, good spinning gears, and nothing was sticking. Yeah, it's very important to have a gearbox that's perfectly shimmed. Maybe they do shim them from factory, but they don't really do a good job shimming them. And I'm going to set that gearbox aside, and I'm showing off the, oh yeah, this is where I did I ground down the tapper plate so the nozzle fits perfectly aligned to where the piston is. And everything is working perfectly. I'm happy. So I put everything together, and I am about to reshell the gearbox. And you see I tucked the wires back there? I tucked them back so that way I don't crimp them when I squeeze the gearbox together. Because apparently I did that before because I noticed there's a crimp in the line. So I'm trying to get the spring guide to fit into the notches, and they say that it's a proprietary spring guide, but you can actually use any version 2 gearbox spring guide that has a hole in the back for the threads in the back, so you can put a bolt through the back and keep the spring guide from moving. Okay, so I've managed to get everything down, and it bows out the whole spring and everything, so it's really difficult to get that spring in there. That's why I really appreciate gearboxes with the bolt in the back to remove springs like easily, but this isn't the case in this old spring or gearbox. It's a really strong gearbox. You can tell where they reinforced it in the front to where it doesn't break off because there's extra metal there. And somehow got, oh, sorry for my head there. So I'm just trying to get the sector gear to fit into place, and I think the piston head's in place, the spring guide's in place. Just trying to get that gear to sit down into the ball bearing spring or ball bearing guide or ball bearing itself. So I got it, and I'm screwing down the screws. The center screw is the most important one. It's the one that you should do the first because it holds everything down center, and then you can just let the gearbox go and screw everything else in. Alright. And there's two long screws, one in the back below the spring guide, and one in the center of the gearbox for the GAT. And everything looks good. Checking out the trigger. I adjusted it earlier by crimping the two connectors and making sure it fits. And right here I'm adding the, I guess the semi-auto arm. I don't know what that thing's called, but basically when the sector gear rotates, it flips that upwards, knocking the trigger upwards, so it will only fire once. Alright, and this is where I check the AOE of the gears. The best way to do that is just to rotate it until you feel some spring tension, and once the spring tension is there, that's the perfect AOE. For my experience, I don't know how other people do it. Or, I do know how other people do it, but I don't really do it that way. This is always the best way for me, and all my gearboxes work perfectly. And then just... oh yeah, earlier I had to take off the that part, so I'll put it back on. Actually, no, I just edited the video because I had to do it twice. Okay, the motor goes on. Make sure it's tight so it doesn't strip any gears. And let's test it out. This is where I'm testing it out. And it works pretty good. And that's the fire selecting plate right there. So I test the full auto function by ever so slightly moving it backwards. Yeah, so I'm expecting this gun to get a similar rate of fire, probably like somewhere around where I had it was 34.2 rounds per second. I'm expecting like 30 rounds per second, 30, maybe 32 rounds per second, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm putting all the pins back in. See, there's that bolt that needs to go in the back, and that bolt is very important when there should be there, because the spring just like torques around inside the motor or inside the gearbox, and you don't want that to happen. There you go. All right. I don't know what I'm doing right here. I think I was looking for, oh yeah, I was looking for the proper bolt to go inside the back end, so, but I just ended up just putting the stock on anyways. And off camera, I adjusted the hop up rubber. There's a flat hop in there, and it's actually the original hop up bucking for the GAT, but I sanded off the nub so I can have it flat hopped. Sanded off the nub and cut off the that little strip on the bottom, and putting it back together. It's actually really easy to put that body back on. It's actually just one screw, and this is how you install the battery. So there you go. You tuck the charging cable in, and you put the red dot sight over, and it holds everything down. red dot sight is only like 20 bucks on eBay. Super cheap thing, but it works perfectly fine. Okay. And that stock belongs to MP5. Got it off of eBay as well, and it was lying around. I actually had it on my VSR, but I took it off because I don't really use my VSR anymore. I might make it into a pistol grip just for shits and giggles. So yeah, that's the GAT. I'm gonna fill up a magazine here and make sure the tablet plate feeds perfectly. And there's one BB, 2 BBs, and 3 shots right here, and everything seems to be working in order. Well, alright guys, thanks for watching, and it's a pretty interesting video, I guess. I hope you guys think so, and please feel free to like and subscribe. Subscribe to my team channel, it's Nice Guys Airsoft, and yeah, we do a lot of gameplay footage. You'll actually see some gameplay footage of this gun, and it will be misfeeding, but that's okay, because it's working now. So thanks, and like and subscribe.